Welcome to another episode of the Jones Underground YouTube edition. My name is Mr. Jones. I'm sitting on my couch with the Casio CTS1. Tonight we're talking about why musicians leave the church. It's just going to be another vlog this week. We're going to get into the main three reasons musicians leave the church. A lot of it can be conjectured. Everybody's situation is different. But when you're in the community and you look up and you see, oh man, this guy was jamming at this church and he's no longer there, or whatever the situation is, and especially if you follow gospel musicians on YouTube and you realize that a lot of them don't play for a main church anymore. So we're going to get into that main three reasons why musicians leave the church. Thank you. Man, it sounds good. So reason number three that musicians leave the church. Three is you get fired. I mean, stuff don't work out, and sometimes your skill level or your expectations and things aren't met with the musician, and they find somebody that's a little more dedicated, or they decide to go without a musician because of certain issues. So number three, essentially, musicians get fired. It's not all the times that we get to leave on our own terms. Sometimes it's lifestyles that, pastor don't like certain things that certain people in music get into, or they don't like that musicians are playing out. Um, Maybe they're bringing a little more secular flavor into the service than they would like, or it could be an issue of lack of professionalism. You're not showing up to church on time, that type of situation. So one of the main top three reasons is essentially you get fired, and there's no, you don't. A lot of the jobs that we work in churches, they're not. You're not signing a W-9 or a W-2 form for a lot of this is under the table. So there's no guarantee from Sunday to Sunday that this church is going to be rocking with you, and it could be just as simple as, hey, we got a young up and comer that came through who's not charging as much as you, or it could be we seen you into some stuff that we don't like, or the way that you come into service, we don't like it. So for a lot of reasons, musicians get fired, and I know it's not been my personal experience, and stuff like that. And I know that, for some reasons, it can be another issue of, you don't get along, which is another reason down the line with the leadership at the church and that things of that nature. But a lot of that just plain and simple, you get fired and conduct detrimental to their services, things they're trying to get done. Um, some musicians got a lot going on, so they're not as available to play for certain services, or certain people don't get up and come to church to play on Sunday mornings, and they don't let people know what's going on, and that lack of professionalism leads to them once again church moving on from them. So the one of the main three reasons is churches do let musicians go. They do run with the technology. A lot of them are running stems and tracks from Ableton and these other softwares to replace musicians and drummers and stuff like that. So it could just be that they don't have the money for the budget, that type of situation. And so a lot of times these churches let musicians go. So number three is pretty much musicians get let go. All right, we got number two. Number two is money. I mean, a lot of people think number one is money, but number two is definitely money. If you come in with an agreement to play each Sunday for a certain amount, and you've been playing for that certain amount, we'll say $100. We ain't talking about big money and everything else. And you playing for a small church, and then an organ player at another church sees you. They've been short a musician. They come to you saying, "Hey, yeah, my church can get you 250. $300 a week. If you come on through, you leaving, And a lot of that, yeah, we could talk about, yeah, you really want to know what the leadership is like and everything else. But if you are a struggling musician, money's kind of funny, especially if you're already working a full time job. You only really play at church on Sunday type of situation. Or your main church ain't really paying you a whole lot where you wind up church hopping and playing everywhere else. And musicians will move on the money. I've seen where we have programs where it's multiple churches, and a lot of these musicians turn these, youth services or type of music service. They turn the music session or the praise and worship session session into a shed session, trying to basically outdo everybody that was playing. And part of that is because it's a lot of bishops, a lot of pastors at other churches in these positions, and they see you playing, they know you ain't getting paid a lot of money, and so, once again, that's an opportunity. I'm not saying that that's the best thing because, once again, I like the church I play at not because they pay me the most, but because I have a relationship with the pastor, and the church has become a family to me. Me and my wife, she works as the praise team director there, or the not the praise team director, but the music director there. And so I have a very good position as far as what I do and how I do it there. But a lot of people don't have that. And so, and I'm not people for making moves. If a church offers you more over there, they take it. I've seen people move to a different city to get the money a church is paying. Like, oh man, this church paying $1,000 a Sunday up in Tennessee somewhere, up in Dallas somewhere. They gone, because it gives them enough to maybe play music full time instead of having to work a full time job and play, which is a lot of work. Talking to somebody who does that, it's not the easiest thing when you're making a decision because as long as you are a musician, and I'm not talking about where you got all the skills, you don't have to have all the skills to get a gig at a church. It's something that you can learn. I've seen a lot of musicians that wasn't even gospel musicians hold down gigs at certain churches. And once again, the moment the money gets funny, they gone. And certain churches have a little struggle. Certain churches aren't as big as others. Certain churches are in different financial situations. So it's not a lot of churches just don't have the money. And then when you are a musician, especially when you're growing, you're getting better, you're getting more skilled. Other pastors and other bishops and other leaders in other churches notice that, and they start bringing opportunities, or even worse, not worse, or on the other side of it, you wind up getting a gig playing out in the world, or you get a club gig or a night spot, or you get in a band and the money's there and it's not in church, and you can't do both because you don't have the time, especially if you once again working a full-time job, you raising kids, you got a life outside of music that you're taking care of, so you can't play in church and be available to play for a band and everything else that you got going on. So a lot of people, they leave the church because the opportunities outside of church are better, they pay more, and they just don't have the time to and the ability to do both. And I know in some places it leaves certain churches in the spot and stuff like that. And then there's a lot of issue. I know we have a good community on YouTube. My cat is trying to figure out what I'm doing. I don't know why. But a lot of churches, are getting situations where they just wind up going without a musician. They wind up playing tracks, or they wind up doing stuff because they can't afford musicians, and then it's hard negotiation. It's hard negotiating with a skilled musician that they know what they're worth. The price is 500 a Sunday. The price is 500 a Sunday. And all churches, a lot of them can't afford to pay 500 a Sunday. And if they making that playing in a club or a dark room somewhere, or a night spot, then once again that leaves the church out. So one of the main reasons that a musician will leave is, number two, I would say, would be the money. All right, number three. Let's going to be, or number one, is going to be definitely the relationship with the pastor. If you have a toxic relationship with the pastor, music director, if you're a musician that's not directing the music, and it becomes a power struggle there, or if the pastor's saying he's going to do something that he doesn't do, and or you come to him and you say, hey, I'm needing a certain thing, or this is how much I need to make if I'm going to continue doing this, and they don't come with it. And a lot of times it boils down to communication, relationships, and when those things break down, you know, the relationships can really turn toxic. And we've seen a bunch of meme videos about how pastors go off on musicians, or you have a musician directing the choir in the middle of someone preaching. And those are all bad situations because number one, God don't want you working out of order. You know, we want to do everything in decency and in order. And when you go home and you feel bad about where you at in your atmosphere and stuff like that, it could be a regular job. You know, if you go home and your regular job is on your nerves, it's time to go get another one. I mean, people say it ain't that easy. It ain't that easy to find a church that's gonna pay you what you need to make it either. But once again, if you go home and your heart is really vexed about your atmosphere where you playing at and the word that's going forth out of there, then once again, and there are a lot of musicians that once again they put a lot of time and effort into what they do, and then there's some musicians that learn the song on the way to church, or they listening to the song through their iPod while they trying to play for the choir and see where they at. So I've seen it all, but the main thing is when there's a breakdown with the music and the leadership, it goes wrong. Forgive my son, he's in there streaming. I don't know what he's got going on, but the main thing is you want to have a good relationship with the leadership at the church, and I'm talking about with the music director. If you're the music director and you're a musician, you need to have a great relationship with the singers and the people up under you, but mainly the pastor, because once again, if the pastor has an issue with you, then the whole church got an issue with you. So if that's a life issue, there's some things that you got going on that they may not like, or the other way around. You see the pastor slipping, and there's a situation, or you believe that they saying something that is out of line or out of order. Then there's a lot of stuff that you want to sit down and maybe talk it out, maybe see if something can be worked out. But if it can't, then once again, you don't want to be in church contributing to a toxic atmosphere, a toxic environment where the spirit of God isn't going forward. And that's the main thing we're here for. We're here to usher in the spirit of God, set up the atmosphere for the word. And, we supposed to know our roles in the process of doing that. And when we don't, that can be a big issue. And so the main reason people leave is because those relationships between the leadership and the music break down. And that's when it's really time for you to, hey, take a little break. Maybe, take a month or two off from playing. It's church or somewhere else. And the main thing is, a lot of times, yeah, it's good to get paid, good to get supported and stuff like that. But all money ain't good money. So you may be getting paid by a church and everything else, but that money may come with expectations of you playing in every service, or you trying to follow an aggressive preacher everywhere they go preach and everything else. And the moment you don't show up, they got an attitude and they trying to pull funds, or they mad because they watching you not tired or something like that, and they looking at you because they paying you and you not tired too, or you one of these musicians that come play for a church and don't join it. Now they looking at you weird because here they is got you in service every week, but you're not a member there, or they preach and you walk out, because you got things to do while they preaching. So it's one of those things where a lot of things can lead to disharmony, and you want to make sure that if you're going to be at a church, especially when you're being supported in that type of situation, you want to make sure you got a decent relationship or a really good relationship with the pastor and leadership there, so that y'all can once again focus on cultivating the atmosphere, building the atmosphere, ushering in the spirit. And this is not you being skilled or not being skilled, or how much you practice and nothing like this. It's basically consideration, professionalism, these things that decide where you're gonna be at, how you gonna, and how long you can be there. You know. So if you and the pastor have a good relationship, man, you could be at this church for years. But if you don't, it could be an issue, and these things pile up pretty quick. Well, and that's my take. So number one, we're gonna talk about that's the relationship with the pastor. All right, well, that'll be the video for tonight. I just like to thank everyone for watching, especially if you watch this whole video. Thank you so much. We've grown our subscriber count, so things are coming around. We took a little bit of time off. We had a busy schedule planned for an anniversary. We had a death in the family and some things kind of going on, and working on a few projects. So definitely we'll get back to these reviews and that situation soon. Special thanks to my wifey. Got my hubby shirt on. She means the world to me. She's really been holding it down. She literally sang the roof off in the church a couple of nights, and man, I don't know what we're doing. That'll be one of the next blogs we do about musical relationships, dating a musician, or why not marry the musician or whatever. But we'll definitely get to that. But thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you again next time.